morning. I think we'll go ahead and get started. We do finally have coffee and another pot is coming, so please help yourself. And I think we might be starting a few minutes late. However, I'd like to say good morning. Welcome to the February Community Breakfast. Please help yourself to food, coffee, there's water and juice. For those, I think I know everybody that's here, but if you don't know me, I'm Linda Maupin, and I'm the Executive Director of the Family Support Center. And I'm facilitating today with Shelley Dosma from CASA. I'd like to thank the following agencies who represent the Planning Committee and organize the breakfast. Leanne from
Great Start.
Yes, thank you. Great Start Collaborative, Berry County Courts, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Foster Care, Great Start Collaborative, of course, CASA, and the Family Support Center. Today we're going to hear more about an important and concerning topic of vaping. Liz Lentz and her team are with us today, and they're going to talk about some of the current challenges. Liz, Gabby, Abby, and Bree come to us from the Berry Community Mental Health Authority, where they work to prevent substance use disorders. Their services include community and school-based programs focused on the prevention of SUDs, substance abuse disorders, and are geared towards youth, families, and adults. Please join me in welcoming Liz and her team.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, everybody, for inviting us. And we brought extra packets, and we will be making our, so to answer the question, we will certainly share our PowerPoint presentation. I know that Bill has already asked for it, and we already have it in a PDF form that we're happy to share after today's presentation. So thank you, and thank you for inviting us again. I want to say thank you to everyone in the room for everything that you do to help families and youth and children in our community. And I also just want to give recognition to what's happening not far away from us in East Lansing, and have kind of a moment of thinking and thoughtfulness and hope for our Spartan community. Even if you bleed blue and gold, we know that green and white is in the color spectrum, and our hearts are with our Spartan family today. So, with that being said, I am lucky to work with two very, very educated, knowledgeable people, Bree and Abby, and this presentation is really a sign of their hard work and their heavy lift. And so I'm really proud. I'll be kind of turning it over to them. We're going to just kind of zip through and spend as much time as we can talking about some of the latest trends and information about vaping. And this is what I want to say, and I want to thank Matt for coming in this morning and saying what he said to me. He said, when I graduated from high school, and I won't tell you what year Matt graduated from high school, but when he graduated from high school, he said nobody was even smoking. We had done such a good job about educating people about tobacco that youth tobacco use was very low. And as a matter of fact, as we moved into the 17s and the early 2020s, we saw tobacco use amongst youth at all-time lows. We had done our job. And then what snuck in behind us was e-cigarettes, electronic vaping devices, whatever we want to call them. And as they have done that, we have, and I will use the collective we have done a disservice to our youth, because they are now armed with, and I don't mean to use that lightly, they now carry with them devices which many times after the first few times they use them, they are already facing dependence, what we might have previously called addiction to substances such as nicotine or THC. So I think we have to treat this as the epidemic that it is becoming, and we have to be aware of the things that youth are bringing to school with them, whether they should or not. So with that, we're going to kind of all send some technology goodness this way, that everything works. Thank you, Dave. I'm sure, Dave, You know, you're here, and the first one in the room to think of a song title between you and I wins, okay? I don't know what the prize is, but, oh, keep your eye, no, forget it, bad joke. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Abby and Bree, and we'll let them kind of go. We brought some props and some things to kind of show and tell, and we're happy to be here.
So the Berry County SATF began in 2004 as a meth task force. And since then, under the leadership of Liz and a lot of our community, it has evolved to cover a lot of different bases. So I'm going to hop on over to our next slide here. So like was said in the introduction, we do a lot of things. We wear a lot of different hats every single day. We do a lot of work in the community. We do a lot of work in the community. A lot of it is education-based and awareness. And we provide evidence-based curriculums to a lot of different student bodies here in Berry County and all 5 school districts we have. Okay, so Liz wants us to all play a game, and this is not my strong suit, so I'm going to try and do it as fun as Liz would do.
I can help you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay.
That's
We
great.
got prizes, they're called evaluations. Okay, so just put the first one up there and we'll see, just shout it out if you know what it is.
So what we're going to do is we're going to put a word up, and we want to see if you all can define it for us, what it is. And a lot of them are slang terms,
Don't tell them that.
but give it your best shot.
All right, who knows what card is? What's a card? Cartridge, all right, Abby.
Yes, it's slang for the cartridge. So this is what is filled with nicotine or THC and attaches to the battery of a vape. Dab.
All right, who knows what a dab is? All right, Leanne just did this. I was at the library science night last week, and a little 6-year-old kept coming up and going like this at my table, and I really wanted to say to the gardener or the parent or caregiver, do you know what that is? But I got my mouth shut. But dab, all is related. Go ahead. I didn't.
All right, so this is a THC concentrate, and it's usually in kind of a waxy or a semi-solid form. And this is what is used in certain types of vapes known as dab pens. And it has lots of other slang terms, wax, butter, shatter, and it comes in a lot of different forms. We're going to show you some pictures of that in a little bit.
Nick, come on, you want an evaluation. You know you do, Stacy.
Go ahead, Stacy. What was that?
Nicotine sick.
Yes, nicotine sick. So this is the state of overexposure or an overdose on nicotine, and it can look different for every single person. There's no set of symptoms that are attributed to this, but a lot of common ones: nausea, vomiting, a racing heart, confusion, anxiety, headache, difficulty breathing, those kinds of things. Stizzy.
Come on, Dale. Stizzy. We'll give you an evaluation anyway. Jeff? You know it? All right.
Okay, so slang for being high. It's also a brand name for a specific kind of THC vape. Mod.
Like the mod squad. Well, that's all right.
So this is the battery that connects to the cartridge, and they come in a lot of different forms, countless different forms. They look different. We're going to show you some of those as well. Dispo.
No, but you can have an evaluation.
Jelly.
Great for this
What happens if you're vaping and your kids get your THC? We have a dispo at court.
Disposition, yes, sure. So this is slang for a disposable vape, a vape that is meant to be used until the cartridge is empty and the battery is dead, and then it is to be disposed of. Breeze.
Yes.
It is a brand, yes.
And we actually have a Breeze with us.
We do.
Yep.
Up until yesterday, we thought that Breeze was only a nicotine vape, a very popular brand with youth, but we discovered yesterday that they now have a brand new line of THC vapes as well. And they are almost imperceptibly different. They look exactly the same as their nicotine brand.
So we sat Bree out. This is the best part about Bree is that Breeze Bar was how much?
So the Breeze Bar was 1 for $20 or 2 for $30.
And how much was the Mr. Vapor?
The Mr. Vapor was $16.95.
Friends, we're not gonna open them, but you can take a look at them, and these are our Crocs. And so, you know, these are dispos, and they are pretty easy to conceal, to purchase, to have, to hold. Okay. Nicotine salt?
All right, so nicotine salt is relatively new technology that we saw with the advent of vapes. So this is a free-based synthetic nicotine, but it's mixed with benzoic acid to reduce the pH, so it doesn't have that harsh throat hit of combustible nicotine like a cigarette or a cigar. So it does not irritate the throat, and it allows a vape to deliver a much higher level of nicotine than we see with a cigarette or other combustible tobacco.
When was the last time, now this is people are gonna be showing their age, when's the last time we heard the term freebase? Anybody remember? It's worth thinking about. Yeah, Richard Pryor, right? Yeah, okay. So if you don't know what that is, it's this thing called Google, you can Google it. Okay, all right.
Okay, so kind of why we're all here today. Why is this a big deal? So adolescent brains are exceptionally vulnerable to addiction and dependence. How old are we when our brain is fully developed? 25. Yes, we're 25. So when a person uses a substance like nicotine in their adolescence or before that time, they are exceptionally vulnerable to it. With this synthetic nicotine, these nicotine salts, there's an increased likelihood of developing that dependence to nicotine. The nicotine level in a traditional cigarette is 1.5%. Nicotine in a vape or an e-cigarette ranges anywhere from 5 to 50%. So addiction happens a lot sooner with vape use than it would with a cigarette. And technology, like I was saying, allows for a lot higher delivery of that nicotine, that addictive chemical. So, another graphic for that. So the addictiveness of cigarettes and vapes are so much different. When we think about how addictive cigarettes are and the master tobacco settlement, we think, wow, there's so many people that were addicted to that, and there's so many lifelong consequences. Vapes are so new, but what we do know is that they contain so much more nicotine, 5 to 50 times as much nicotine as a cigarette. So we are seeing addiction can happen, you know, before a person has finished that first vape even.
So just as a point, do we know what these percentages are?
Yeah, they're on the side there.
Okay, this one's 5%, and
I want to say that one's 5% as well. One of them's like 5,000 puffs, and one of them's like 3,000 puffs.
this one's 2,000, and this one's 3,000.
Yeah.
So the 3,000 is like 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes in that one vape. And I have seen a 50% nicotine salt vape here in town at a store. So they are around. This isn't something that is exotic or not here. So to transition a little bit, some studies have been coming out over the past couple of years that have connected the use of vapes with THC as well. So a person is 3 to 3.5 times higher, sorry, that didn't make sense, 3 to 5 times more likely to use THC in a vape form if they are already using e-cigarettes. So here are some devices that have made their way around schools here in Berry County. This here is a cart. This is a cartridge. It's filled with either THC or nicotine. It's really, really hard to tell in this form without specific testing. We can't really just eyeball it. And this right here is the mod. So the battery is in here. This goes into there and it is able to be used. This one is a mod where the cart is inside. And here's a different kind of cart. This is a nicotine vape that this kind of shape is relatively new. We're starting to see those come around as well. This brand is new to us. This is one that looks very discreet. It looks exactly like a USB drive or those old style Juuls that we were first seeing when vapes were coming out. But this right here is THC. and it is a refillable kind of pod system. These are a multitude of different vapes that we're going to see, and we have a little bag of goodies here for everybody to look at that contain almost all of these kinds of brands as well. And we're going to talk a lot about this one right here, specifically this green one, which is a Breeze. It's very, very popular amongst adolescents. And here is about 1 million different kinds of those Breeze. They come in multiple different sizes, unlimited flavors almost. And again, these are all ones that have been confiscated from school. So if we look at some data, you know by now that the three of us thrive on data. We collect it in multiple different ways, and we use data from multiple different sources. These ones are from the Truth Initiative, which is a national initiative to halt or slow down tobacco use amongst teenagers. So here we can see that cigarette use amongst adults and high school students. 6% in 2019, 4.5% in Michigan. Adults, though, their rates are higher than the national average here in Michigan. And in other tobacco products, so what I find interesting on this slide is that the same percent of high school students as adults are using smokeless tobacco. So that's not something that we necessarily have thought about very much. When I say smokeless tobacco, I mean like chew, snus, pouches, those kinds of things. It's not something that we really have considered that much, but this year we have heard from education staff that it is making a return. Liz, you want to speak to MyFi data?
Yeah, I just want to say that MyFi data is important to all of us, and we all need this data to be able to kind of see what's happening, what the trends are. Unfortunately, something happened 3 years ago called COVID, and we lost our data trail. So hopefully we'll get back on the data bus here in Berry County in 2023, 24. So we actually had 6 cycles of data from 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 95. And so we had 5 cycles of data, and now we have nothing again. So we'll have to kind of start over with a new baseline. And we'll be working towards that. So,
Yeah.
thanks, Amy.
Yes, so if we look at our data, this slide looks a little bit wonky, but we can see that past 30-day use of marijuana amongst high school students. Countywide is 17% in 2018 had used cannabis or marijuana in the last 30 days. If we look at electronic vape products, 30%, with as high as 36% in the 11th grade. And granted, this data is 5 years old now, but we have to use what we have. So with that going forward, the signs or the health effects of smoking a vape or using a vape. Has anybody ever heard of Nick tongue before? Yeah, so don't Google it, because there's a lot of really gross images out there. But basically, it's where the aerosol from a vape and the chemical compounds that are in it coat a person's tongue. And it just looks real funky in there. Popcorn lung, has anybody ever heard of that before? It's the permanent scarring and damage from repeated infections in the alveoli of the lungs. This is something new that we saw with vapes that does not occur in the same way with combustible tobacco. Cough and hypertension and increased heart rate, those are all things that we know are attributed to nicotine use regardless of the form it comes in. And they're 7 times more likely to become a cigarette smoker as they become older. If an adolescent is using a vape and is using it regularly, they are much more likely to transition to cigarette use. E-volley. This was something that we were just getting to study and look at and becoming familiar with, and then COVID happened. And so the business of lungs was kind of taken over by COVID a little bit, and we haven't heard as much about it. But what it is electronic cigarette and vaping associated lung injury. And it is permanent lung damage that we were seeing that was attributed to vitamin E acetate and other chemical compounds in vape products. And back in late 2019, early 2020, it was something that was causing a lot of damage. I think 60 people's deaths were attributed to it, and thousands of cases were reported. Like I was saying earlier, if a student or a young person is using a vape, they are 3.5 times more likely to also use THC within a year. Let's see. Damaged taste buds, dry mouth, mental health concerns. Nicotine use has been directly linked to behavior disorders in adolescents. Shortness of breath, throat irritation, addiction, dependency. I think like 25% of the time, with even occasional use, an adolescent is addicted to nicotine within 30 days. All right, so if we look at some things, these again, apart from this image, are all things that have been found at school. So this right here is a dab pen. This is what a dab looks like, same thing here. It's this kind of gross, waxy kind of substance that's usually in a little tiny container like this. This dab pen is connected to a mod, this rainbow part, and then this is the cart. This right here says medicate responsibly. So it's being marketed as a medicine, as a cure-all for basically everything. This is a dab pen here and an extra cart. And this one also, this cart right here is CBD. And then another example of a dab pen. They're very small. They are very concealable as well. This right here was something that was found, again, by a student. We have this device here with us today that we can look at because it's very important to a new trend that we're seeing called recharge. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. What we have here is the mod. This is the battery. And in here is what's called a 510 thread battery. And this can be hooked up to any kind of cart, a THC cart, a nicotine cart, and it can be used for a long time, especially with this new recharge trend. And I'm going to show you a slide about that in just a second. But why we want to talk about this is that connection between vaping nicotine and using THC. And the THC that we are seeing today, I'm going to talk about in a minute, but it is not the same THC that we think about at Woodstock. Okay? This is high potency THC, and if you've heard us talk before, you have heard us talk about the dangers of high potency THC. It causes a lot of problems, including impaired cognitive functions, psychosis, unexpected poisonings, and cannabis toxicity. Raise your hand if you think it's possible to overdose on THC. Yeah, absolutely it is. It's just called something different. It's called a green out. It's called cannabis toxicity. We're seeing something in ERs called cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. It is basically violent vomiting that does not stop due to overexposure to high potency THC.
Hold on.
That was scary.
Run it back.
All right. So, like I was saying, a lot of times when we think about THC, or weed as it's being called again, this is not the same. Back in then, Summer of Love, the 70s, the THC was about 1 to 3%. Okay? But now it is roughly between 23% and 99%. All of these products here are things that are sold here in Berry County. Okay, at the dispensaries here. This right here, this is the Breeze version of a THC vape. It looks almost identical to some that we're going to pass around today that are nicotine. A lot of these are in edible format, so they are those THC concentrates. This is popcorn. This is Flowerade, and it is basically like a drink mix that a person can use. These are all very high THC content, 200 milligrams per use or above. What is happening? Am I pushing the wrong button on this mystery clicker?
I don't know.
There we go.
What are we unpack?
All right, so as states are legalizing recreational or adult use, as it's now called, THC, they are manipulating the THC content. Back in the 70s, it was 1 to 5% on the high end, and it was usually smoked in a dried flower form. Occasionally, it was in an edible form. But today, that dried flower THC content is 20 to 40%. I haven't seen anything lower than 20% since I've been doing this and in my previous career positions. But the concentrates that are in edibles and are in vapes and in those dabs are 50 to 95%. So think about the difference between 3% and 95, and those dangers of high potency THC. So Bree and I, like Liz and Linda said, we are in schools all the time. We're talking to students in various different roles and positions, and we ask them, you know, what's happening, and we learn so much from them. So some things that we're hearing: they have no issue sharing vapes in public places, especially school. They are using discarded vapes. We've had multiple students tell us that they will see a vape in the curb or in the gutter and pick it up and use it to see if there's any nicotine in there. We are getting more and more referrals about younger students using, elementary age students who are showing signs of dependence to nicotine. The recharging of disposable devices. I'm going to show you what that looks like here in a minute, but this is something that has kind of surprised us in the past couple of months, and the more we looked into it, the more we're realizing that it is extremely common, and it's happening a lot. An increase in reported use of flavored cigars and chewing tobacco. So this is another one of those things that we asked a question, and some students surprised us. We're like, oh, absolutely. I'm more likely to use that. Easy access. They know exactly where they can get them, what places are going to sell to them, whose older brother, whose mom, who is willing to get these things for them. And there is this underground communication network amongst these students across school districts. They know where to go. Okay? We have been told by every single student who we've asked that vape detectors are not a deterrent. They have figured out how to get around them, or they simply are not, they're not worried about it, which is extremely concerning. They are easily recognizing the signs of dependence in themselves and peers. They are recognizing when they are affected, especially their athletic performance, their sleep habits, their anxiety and their mental health are suffering. They have no issue recognizing those things. And they seem to be aware of these, but they are very reluctant to call it an addiction. Bree and I tend to run a little social experiment, and every now and then we'll switch up the word addiction with dependence. And where nobody said that they would recognize addiction or that they are suffering from it or their peers are, 100% of them said that those same students are dependent. So, recharging. This is using a phone charger to recharge a disposable vape, or to vape a cartridge without a battery. So like I was showing you in that image earlier, this is that 510 thread, and here we have a stripped phone charger. I did not strip this phone charger because I'm scared, but students are not, and they're cutting that phone charger and they're stripping the wires so that they're bare. Okay, they're using two of them. They're connecting this green one to one side and the red one to the inside, holding it with their bare finger and able to recharge that battery. They do the same thing on the cart so that they can just have a cartridge that is full of THC or nicotine, pressing those wires to it, and they're able to hit that without that battery. They're extremely creative. If they would funnel that energy and that knowledge into something productive, it would be amazing. The world would be a different place. But basically, you don't need that much for it. You need one of these mods, one of these 510 threaded batteries. You need a charger. And when everybody gets this PowerPoint, there's going to be YouTube videos in here that you can watch a person do this. They're very short and very informative, for a lack of a better word. So everybody has a charger most of the time. Something sharp, nail clippers, a pair of scissors, a knife, something to do that, or something to get the bottom off of a disposable vape. And we're going to pass around a bag, and you can see if you look at a green breeze bar in this bag, please don't pull them out because they've been in kids' mouths. But if you look at the bottom of a green breeze bar that's in that bag, you can see that the bottom has been pried off. There's lots of marks on there where somebody has taken something sharp, pulled that off, and recharged it.
So Abby, I'm going to let Bree talk about the contents in that bag as she passes it around.
Yeah, so in that bag, these are all different devices, but you can kind of see on a lot of them that you can kind of see the knife marks at the end. So what they do is to pop that, that black part off at the end, and then that's what they can use the phone charger for, to then connect those wires and then be able to hit that vape even though it has run out of its battery. So there's videos online where you can use, you know, an iPhone charger, you can use pretty much a charger for anything. And there's lots and lots of YouTube videos that will show you or show them exactly how to do it and, you know, what to remember, that kind of thing.
And the batteries are lithium. You want to talk about that, Bree? Okay, so the batteries that are in these dispos are lithium. And so, you know, lithium is kind of one of those things that probably shouldn't be messed with, right? It's fine if it's protected inside something, but if you're kind of retrofitting the charge, you could heat something too high. You know, we don't want to deal with lithium touching water, right? We know that that could cause a fire. So we're kind of concerned about this. And we have had some instances where students have been found in possession of a blade as well as a dispo. And so that is when you can talk with the student about what they're doing. They're not taking that blade to school for any weaponry. They're using it to pop that end off of that green vape and then charge that battery. So the industry is kind of smart. It's a dispo for a reason. The battery is not going to necessarily last forever. The more it's hit, the weaker the battery gets because there's no way to recharge it. So people have figured out how to recharge so they can get every last drop out of that 2,000 or 3,000 puff, right? Some of these go up to 5,000 or 8,000.
Yeah.
And I'm going to guess that the battery is not significantly strong enough to do that, to hold that charge.
And the more charged that battery is, the more nicotine they're able to extract from it. So each puff is stronger if the battery is stronger. So what we're doing to kind of combat this epidemic, as Liz called it, we are doing a lot of things. We're offering a program called Catch My Breath. This is, in one part, it's a universal program that we have started piloting with Maple Valley schools and Hastings schools, where we go in and we speak to all of the 5th and 6th grade at Maple Valley and all of the 6th grade here at Hastings Middle School. And we do a 1-hour lesson on the dangers of vaping and the consequences of vaping, both social and physical, and what it is and why it's marketed towards them and why it's dangerous. We also practice refusal skills and exit strategies for when they're in a peer pressure situation. And then we use it as an indicated program. So with 4 schools here in our county, we use this as an alternative to suspension or a restorative practice. If a student has a first-time offense, they brought a vape to school, they get the opportunity of, depending on the school district, missing out on some of that suspension if they sit in a 2-lesson class with us and learn about those same things that that universal program does. We also do life skills training in the 3rd grade and then as well in the middle school. In the 3rd grade, we talk about decision-making skills, how to be a good friend, how to be confident, those kinds of things. In the middle school, it is strictly substance-based, and we educate them on substances, including nicotine, alcohol, prescription medications, and THC. We do focused media campaigns. I'm sure all of you have seen those billboards, social media, those kinds of things. We do something called the student quick screen. So if a student has a first-time offense of bringing a substance to school, Liz is raising her hand. Oh, okay. Wow, I have to hurry. They have the opportunity of doing a quick screen and we can kind of do a referral for services. Bree and I are both trained as tobacco treatment specialists. So now there are 3 of us here in Berry County. We are hoping that we can make this a kind of team effort and make it useful to the community.
Stacy is our first.
Yes.
She's certified.
Yeah.
They're trained, working towards certification, but Stacy is she's the
Yes.
inspiration.
Yes, exactly. We have refreshed, Bree has, our nicotine prevention work group, and a lot of folks here sit in on that work group, where we do these focused media campaigns and programs. Community education opportunities, and then data collection. So this is what that Catch My Breath program looks like. I will not go through all of this, but this is our lesson plan broken down. And this is how many students we've had over the past few years since the pilot started. You can see that so far in the 2022 school year, we've had 49, which is already more than we had the entire last school year.
This is for the indicated program.
And this is for the indicated alternative to suspension program, as Bree mentioned. So very concerning. This is not going away. This is, in fact, growing. And here is that this first pilot program from Hastings Middle School. 92% of students at the end of the day were able to recognize that nicotine is addictive. Student quick screens. We started doing them quite a while ago, but in 2020, COVID happened, so there were a little bit less of them. But you can see here in 2023, this is not school year, this is calendar year. There's already been 7. 100% of them have been a THC is a substance of concern. We also piloted a program called the Cannabis Awareness Program with Juvenile Court last October. And this is what that lesson plan looks like. This is a program that we are hoping that we can adapt and bring again to the community in a little bit different form, because as we were doing this program, we realized that it was not exactly meeting the needs of the students who were referred. Training opportunities. Last December, we had Dr. Brittany Taylor. She is an internist and a pediatrician, also an Alice Hoffman Scholar who does vaping education throughout the country. We are having her again in May of 2023 to talk about THC in special populations, pregnant and nursing individuals, and the dangers of high-potency THC, and adolescents using THC. We're also hoping to have somebody from the Cannabis Regulatory Agency to break down Michigan's cannabis laws for us a little bit. As we are out in the community doing these presentations, these educational segments, we are making referrals, and we have all of these things, all of these partnerships are going out. This page right here goes out to every student who is in Catch My Breath. So everybody knows where those resources are.
And a lot of these resources are in the packet you picked up today. So
Yes.
you have actual physical copies of them.
Yes, absolutely. So our next question is, where do we go? Because we're doing a lot of things, we're still seeing those numbers growing.
And we know you're all doing things too. So, you know, we couldn't do what we do without the partnerships that we have with everyone. So we don't own this. And the only way we're going to make a difference is if we all kind of work together on this and we're all aware. So I know we need to do as much education as possible, and other people have heard me say this. We need to be carrying the message to others, to the parents that we work with, to the families that we work with, to the grandmas and the grandpas that we work with, because this is all so brand new to everybody except our young people, right? They know all about this. So any questions? Yes, Maggie.
It looks like maybe in the pilot program you talked about this a little bit, but I noticed on the symptoms you said it's associated with mental health.
Yes.
Is that correlational, or is using causational? Do you know what I'm asking?
It is causational.
Okay.
So what we hear from students is that they are using to cope with their stress. They're using nicotine as a coping mechanism. But what has also been found through various studies is that nicotine is adding on to those mental health concerns.
Okay, so it's both and.
Yes, both and I would say the same is true for cannabis. All we have here is anecdotal, but when we do the student quick screens and we ask the question, okay, tell us why you're using cannabis or THC, what does it do for you? A lot of times they'll say that they have anxiety and that helps them, but at the same time they may often contradict themselves and say that it's making them more anxious because they're waking up in the middle of the night and having to either hit the nicotine vape or the THC vape. A lot of young people are voicing that they don't like that this has control over their life and they never intended for it to get there. Yeah, so I hope that answered your question, Maggie.
Yeah.
Other questions? We brought extra packets. We don't want to take any of them back with us. Please be the messengers and take these packets. You can share them with parents. You can share them with your, yes?
Where are they at with, they were going to take away the flavoring for that?
So what happened with that flavor ban back in 2019 or 2018?
I can't hear you, sorry.
So that flavor ban that Governor Whitmer put into place, what it did was it banned flavors of refillable vape products. And what happened was that was when we saw the advent of disposable products, which did not meet the requirements for that law. So really, all the companies did was find a loophole and exploit it. So it became non-effective.
And then that ban was blocked by the
Supreme Court.
Supreme Court, so it was taken away anyway. So it was only in effect for like
2 or 3 months maybe.
Yeah.
Long enough for them to find the loophole, exploit it.
Yeah.
Now, do they have to be 21 also to purchase, like they do cigarettes now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. All synthetic nicotine products recently you have to be 21, but also they just came under FDA jurisdiction. So hopefully that means that we'll see some action as far as approvals. Right now they have 8 million applications into the FDA for products. So I imagine there's going to be a bit of a battle.
I feel like Abby is really up to date on a lot of legislation, and as you know, a session ended December 31st, and so new sessions are beginning all the time. Things here in Berry County changed. We went from one representative, and now we are covered by 3. And we as of yet, we can't lobby, but we can advocate, and we don't really know how any of our representation feels about it. So we'll be trying to do some education with them as they have office hours and meeting with them and kind of taking a measure. Unfortunately, this lays in the hands of a lot of governmental entities such as the FDA, and there's a pretty strong tobacco lobby, as you can imagine. So I don't like to leave ever. I don't like to ever leave a presentation without some hope. And the hope that I have here in Berry County is that we have people like Abby and Reed that can put all this together. We're committed to serving young people and our partners and trying to find ways to mitigate this. Mitigate is a horrible word, but just we really want to see some change. And we know that we need each and every one of you plus 60,000 more people in this county to help us get the word out there that this is no joke. And it's not safe, and it's not a healthier alternative, especially for our young people. So thanks for sticking with us this morning. Thank you for the lovely breakfast. We hate that we have to ask you to do 2 evaluations, but our funders require us. So, and I know that Bill and Linda and Leanne and Shelley need their evaluations as well. So thank you for inviting us. So if you have any other questions, we'll be here for a few minutes.
So again, as anticipated, you guys just rock it out. Every time, I've done training and I fortunately get to hear their updates, and every time I learn myself, even though I'm in the field, but not like they are. So I so appreciate everything. There are the blue evaluations that we appreciate from the Family Support Center. And we hope that this expanded knowledge will help you in your area, whether it's your family, nieces, nephews, neighbor kids, and especially in your work. Again, the feedback is important. Our next community breakfast will be in February, so of course we invite you back. Bring your friends. It will be May 17th. This concludes our February one. The next one is May 17th at 8 a.m. So we will, of course, send out alerts to that. Thank you, everyone, for coming.